Laura, first of all, it's great to have you and the crew coming back to T-Town. How's everything going?
We are so excited to be back, and it's a place that is obviously very near and dear to my heart. I love going to Tuscaloosa. It's a big deal in the Rutledge household when we're going there. So Josh is always like, "Man, can I go?" This week he can't go, but hopefully down the road, if we're able to go back, he'll be able to join. But really, just love being there. I love seeing all the Alabama fans that show up, and we can't wait to see all of you out there. So if you're able to come, just stop by, yell at us. We love taking pictures and hanging out, and it should be a really fun show.
Yeah, speaking of Josh, of course, a great Alabama baseball player, huge football fan. How is he taking the last 3 weeks for this football team?
It hasn't been a great time to be in the household with an Alabama fan. What's been interesting, and our relationship is so funny because I probably know a little bit too much. So I'll be like, no, it's fine. Like they can afford a couple losses. Now, yes, here is when they really need to dial in and focus in on the season and make sure they don't have any more losses. And I keep telling him, like, in the expanded playoff, it matters what you're doing in November. It matters what you're doing in December, and they're going to be fine. And they're so talented, especially offensively. I'm like trying to make him feel better, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so upset." So I know it's been unusual, right? I mean, the reality is we haven't seen Alabama with two losses at this point in the season since 2007. So I realize a lot of fans are upset and discouraged, and I see why. But I still very firmly believe in this team.
Is this the first time you're really going to be around Alabama so far this season? And have you met and talked with Coach DeBoer very much in the past?
So I actually was on Alabama's sideline for the Alabama Georgia game. I got to do that broadcast, and so spent a lot of time with him that week, and spent a lot of time talking to Coach DeBoer, and obviously interviewed him multiple times in that game, which of course was a really interesting game and a huge win, right? Like at the end of the day, like now we've seen Georgia go beat Texas, the number one team, so that win that Alabama had over Georgia at home matters a ton, and still maybe one of the better wins that any team is going to have this season, despite the way that Georgia came roaring back in that one. So, but yeah, it's a different vibe, right? Having covered many Nick Saban led Alabama teams over the years, it's definitely a different vibe. And I think that part is probably a little bit hard for fans too, who are used to the intensity and the attention to detail that Nick Saban has. And it's not that Coach DeBoer doesn't have that attention to detail, because I believe he does. I do still firmly believe he's the right person for the job. And there's a lot of positive about him, but he's just a different person than Coach Saban. There's no other Coach Saban. I think we all wish, we could clone him and like have him on TV and also have him coaching still, but it's very different.
Very different. And it seems like Coach DeBoer has stayed pretty steady, even with the losses the last few weeks and then the emotional high of that Georgia win. Have you seen him stay pretty consistent throughout his first year?
Yes, and I think even the message that the players have been revealing even this week about kind of trying to block out some of that outside noise. I mean, I don't think we all realize sometimes, and we, I'm not even saying that we need to be sympathetic toward these players, but they are young men who are trying to figure out life. And like, if you think about yourself, no matter what you did at from 18 to 22 years old or so, none of us had it all figured out. Like they're uber talented, but it is hard in this day and age. We're seeing a ton of parity across the SEC. We're seeing it in college football as a whole. I think we're just going to see some teams that you don't expect to lose some this season. The transfer portal has created that. NIL has created that. So it is sort of a new era of college football. And I think what you're seeing from Coach DeBoer is trying to say, guys, all this is happening around us. Let's try to focus on getting better, because there are obviously areas that are needed for improvement for the Crimson Tide. And I have seen a shift in the way that they are managed by DeBoer. I mean, even ahead of that Georgia game, I talked to Jalen Milrow about what was different for him, and he just talked about feeling freer and more confident, and they don't have that same pressure on him. And I know some people are like, well, that's a bad thing, but I think overall, probably it is ultimately better for this group and for young men who, in this day and age, are trying to navigate through things. Like guys are just different now than they probably were at the beginning of Coach Saban's career, and everything's different with social media and all of that. So I think if this team can really take that to heart, block some of this noise out, take care of business, they've got to win this game this week, then we're probably in a situation where we might see them peak at the right time. That's all that really matters.
Speaking of Coach Saban, in your decade covering Alabama's program with him as the head coach, do you have a favorite moment either on air or off air that really stands out?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. I mean, he's one of my favorite coaches I've ever had the pleasure of interviewing and talking to. I actually would say my favorite moment is now as he's crossed over to our side of things, and we had him at SEC Media Days. So really his the beginning part of his work, which was a pretty hefty workload at Media Days, happened with us on SEC Network. And he was so funny. We did the first day and we were on set for about 3 hours. And, Media Days, it's like you talk and then you wait for somebody to do their whole press conference and then you talk again and you can't leave. I mean, he couldn't even leave to go to the bathroom. Like we all just sit up there and wait until the next time. And so we got done and it was time for the next group to come in. And he looked at us and he said, "That's it?" He's like, I thought I was here to work. I mean, that's not enough work. I studied all these teams. I need to be doing more. And I was like, "Okay, coach, well, we didn't want to, overwork you here like early on." And he's like, "No, I've got nothing else to do. What am I going to sit in the hotel all day?" So we ended up actually, this is like a untold story here, inside information. We ended up adding more to his plate for the rest of the week at Media Days because we realized that he wanted to work and that was what he had come to do. And I mean, you just see his dedication to this craft, like he's been dedicated to coaching for all these years. You're seeing it play out on TV. But truly an icon, a legend. I think he's going to be many Emmy award winning broadcaster, and it's just been fun to be a very small part of his TV career.
Of course, he's on College Game Day while you guys are having fun on SEC Nation. What can you tell us about where you've been the last few weeks? So we know you got to highlight two of the new additions to the league with Texas and Oklahoma and Dallas.
Yeah, there were so many cool spots we've been able to do and to experience Red River for the first time. I had never been there before. I'd never done that game before, covering the SEC so extensively over these past few years and not being anywhere else on a Saturday except for the SEC. And so to know that that rivalry is now part of our conference is so special. I would recommend if you haven't been to that, go. I know just as a college football fan, the state fair is there and it's just wild and crazy. So that was really a whole lot of fun. And then of course didn't end up the way that Alabama wanted it to end up, but being in Knoxville last week and getting that environment. I mean, the third Saturday in October, it's one of those things. There's so many things changing in college football, and certainly with expanded schedules and the conference expansion and things changing, you see some of these great rivalries go away. I am so glad that we still have that third Saturday in October. And I know Alabama fans have a bitter taste in their mouth after the way that it went, but it's just such a great game. So that was really cool and special. And, it's been such a unique year being able to go and experience the Texas and Oklahoma editions and feel that, but then also still have so much that has stayed the same. And I think that's been special for us too, to know that we go to these spots and we know what to expect, and the hospitality is wonderful. And as I said off the top, Tuscaloosa is just top notch for us, and we're excited. We have some really fun plans for this show. We got the homecoming parade that actually starts like halfway through our show, so we're going to have a plan to cover that, so you get to see some of that. And just a really fun interactive day for anybody who can come out to the show. And then if you're watching at home, we just hope that you step away feeling like you were in T-Town for the day, getting ready for a big game.
Then brag on your crew if you could, just for a second, how tight knit your group is, really on and off air.
Oh, I love that you asked that. I mean, truly, they are so much fun. And it's been just an honor and a joy for me to spend time with them. And it's really cool because, you see the on-air chemistry come out. And that's because we really enjoy each other. Our production meetings on Friday are absolutely hilarious. Tebow will go on a rant. Paul will like wander off. We don't know where he went. I'll be talking to Paul and he's not in the room anymore. I'm like, where did he go? Jordan brings such excellent analysis and such an inside look at things. He, calling games, has a front row seat to talking to all these teams and these coaches. And so that really benefits our product on air. And Roman is just hilarious. Like, you never know what's going to come out of his mouth. He has his scooter, his electric scooter that we travel on our nation bus. So he just scoots around the towns and he'll do what he calls his vibe check. So he'll come back and tell us. And then Marty and McGee are fantastic. And they'll, of course, be leading into nation as usual. So they're on at 8 a.m. local in Alabama. But it's really a group that means so much to me. And I've been on the show for 9 years, and sometimes people are like, how much longer are you going to do the show? I'm like, you guys have to pull me off of this show with like, some sort of pliers from the hand of God, because I love it so much and I live for it. It's been a true blast. And it really is because of the people. Our people behind the scenes as well are so incredibly special to me. Our coordinating producer, Baron Miller, our producer, Randy Heritage, our director, Jeff Dorsey. It's just like a really special group. And we have a lot of fun together. I think if you walk into our production office, you would be like, wow, all they're doing is laughing and like checking on each other and having fun. So it's a wonderful environment.
Well, it translates well to television. Laura, we can't wait to
Thank
have you
you.
and the entire crew coming to Tuscaloosa this weekend. Just safe travels, and we'll look forward to seeing you. And also, just tell Josh to hang in there. Some wins
I
are coming for the
know.
Tide.
Prayers for Josh. Oh, it is so great to see you. Thanks again.